Frank Sinatra walks off stage mid-song. The microphone drops. 18,000 people sit in complete silence. Nobody knows what just happened. But what comes next will change everything. It's February 14th, 1971, Valentine's Day at Madison Square Garden in New York City. The venue is sold out. Every seat filled with fans who paid top dollar to see the chairman of the board perform. The most anticipated concert of the year. The tickets sold out in 47 minutes. People traveled from across the country just to be here, just to see him, just to hear that voice that defined an entire generation. Sinatra is in his element tonight. The orchestra is perfect, sharp, precise. Every musician playing at the peak of their ability. The crowd is electric, buzzing with energy. Anticipation hanging in the air like electricity before a storm. He's already delivered Summer Wind, Come Fly With Me, and New York, New York. Each song performed flawlessly. Each note hitting exactly where it should. The energy is everything you'd expect from a Sinatra show. Power, class, style. That unmistakable voice that made him a legend. That swagger that made him an icon. But something feels different tonight. Between songs, Sinatra keeps looking toward the wings of the stage. His usual confidence seems shaken. His smile doesn't quite reach his eyes. The band notices. The conductor sees it. The backup singers exchange glances. Something is off. The audience doesn't notice. Not yet. They're too caught up in the magic. Too absorbed in the performance. Too busy living their dream of seeing Frank Sinatra live. In the fifth row, center section, sits a woman named Eleanor Romano. She's 62 years old. Gray hair pulled back in a neat bun. Wearing her best dress. The navy blue one she saves for special occasions. The one she wore to her daughter's wedding. The one she keeps wrapped in tissue paper in the back of her closet. She's alone tonight. The seat next to her is empty. That empty seat tells a story that nobody in the arena knows yet. A story that's about to break Frank Sinatra in front of 18,000 people. A story that will change how everyone in this building thinks about love and loss and the power of showing up even when your heart is shattered into 1,000 pieces. Eleanor has been a Sinatra fan since 1943. 28 years of devotion. She owns every album, every single, every recording she could get her hands on. She's seen him perform 17 times over the years, from small clubs in New Jersey to the grand stages of Las Vegas. She's followed his career like some people follow baseball teams, with passion, with loyalty, with unwavering dedication. But this concert is different. This concert was supposed to be for two people, Eleanor and her husband Vincent. They'd planned this night for months, circled the date on their calendar in red marker, talked about it every day, made it the light at the end of a long winter. Vincent had surprised her with the tickets on Christmas morning. He'd wrapped them in a small box with a bow. She'd opened it expecting earrings or a bracelet. Instead, she found 2 concert tickets. Fifth row center. The best seats they'd ever had. Eleanor had cried with joy. Vincent had smiled that crooked smile she'd fallen in love with decades ago and said this would be their greatest night yet. Their 41st wedding anniversary and a Sinatra concert. What could be more perfect? But 3 weeks ago, on January 23rd, 1971, Vincent Romano suffered a massive heart attack while shoveling snow from their Brooklyn driveway. He died before the ambulance arrived. Eleanor found him in the snow, face down, still holding the shovel. His coat buttoned wrong because he'd been in a hurry to clear the walk before she got home from the grocery store. Gone, just like that. 41 years together ended in the time it takes to shovel a driveway. Her friends told her not to go to the concert. Too painful. Too soon. Stay home. Grieve properly. Rest. Heal. Don't torture yourself. Give the tickets away. Sell them. Do anything but sit in that seat next to the empty chair where your husband should be. But Eleanor came anyway. She came because Vincent would have wanted her here. She came because music was how they celebrated life together. Every anniversary. Every birthday. Every moment worth remembering had a soundtrack. She came because sitting in that fifth row seat, even alone, even with that empty chair beside her mocking her loss, felt like keeping a promise. like honoring the man who spent 41 years making her feel loved, like finishing something they started together. That morning, Eleanor had stood in front of her closet for 20 minutes trying to decide what to wear. Should she wear black? She was in mourning after all. But Vincent always loved her in blue. He said it brought out her eyes. So she chose the blue dress. She put on her pearls, the ones he gave her on their 25th anniversary. She did her makeup carefully, even though she knew she'd probably cry it all off before the night was over. She picked up both tickets from the kitchen table, held them in her hand, felt the weight of them, the promise they represented, the dream that was now half broken. She almost didn't go, almost put the tickets back down and climbed into bed and let the grief swallow her whole. But then she remembered something Vincent said to her once. He said that music doesn't die when the record stops playing. It lives in the moments we create around it. It lives in memories. It lives in the way we choose to honor the things we love. So Eleanor came to Madison Square Garden. She came alone. She sat in her seat and placed Vincent's ticket on the empty chair beside her, a placeholder for a ghost, a symbol of a love that death couldn't quite erase. Sinatra begins the opening notes of his next song, One for My Baby, a slower number, intimate, the kind of song that makes you think about love and loss and all the people who aren't here anymore, the kind of song that cuts straight to your heart if you're not careful, the kind of song that sounds different when you're grieving. He's only a few lines in when it happens. Someone in the audience shouts something, a woman's voice cutting through the music like a knife, sharp, desperate, raw, filled with a pain that can't be contained anymore. Sinatra stops singing, mid-phrase, the word hanging in the air unfinished. The orchestra continues for 2 more measures before the conductor frantically signals them to stop. Instruments falling silent one by one until there's nothing but the echo of what was. The entire arena goes quiet. 18,000 people holding their breath, confused, uncertain, wondering what's happening. Some people annoyed that the show has been interrupted, others curious, all of them about to witness something they'll tell their grandchildren about. Sinatra shields his eyes from the stage lights, trying to see into the crowd. The spotlight makes everything beyond the first few rows a blur of darkness and shadow. He can see shapes, movement, but no details. Ma'am, his voice echoes through the sound system. What did you say? Eleanor Romano is standing now, tears streaming down her face, mascara running, hands shaking. She's holding something in her hands, a photograph, old, worn at the edges from being held too many times, carried in her purse every day for 41 years. Mr. Sinatra, she calls out, her voice breaking with emotion. My husband died 3 weeks ago. These were our anniversary seats. He loved you so much. I just wanted you to know he's here with me tonight. His spirit is here. The silence in Madison Square Garden is absolute. You can hear someone cough 3 sections away. You can hear the rustle of programs, the creak of seats, the breathing of thousands of people all waiting to see what happens next. 18,000 people all turn toward this grieving woman in the 5th row, all staring, all holding their breath, all wondering what happens next. Some people are annoyed. They paid good money for this show. Others are moved, touched by this woman's courage to speak up, to interrupt Frank Sinatra, to demand that her grief be acknowledged. Sinatra stands frozen at center stage. His microphone hangs loose in his hand, his shoulders tense, his jaw tight. For a moment, he looks like he might continue the show, acknowledge her pain with a nod and move on. Say something like, I'm sorry for your loss, ma'am, and launch back into the song. That's what performers do. The show must go on. Entertainment doesn't stop for grief. You smile through the pain. You deliver the performance people paid for. You separate the personal from the professional. But then something shifts in his expression. Something breaks open. A crack in the armor that Frank Sinatra spent decades building. The tough guy facade crumbles. Frank Sinatra, the man who never showed weakness, who built his career on unshakable confidence and cool sophistication, who faced down mob bosses and critics and personal demons without flinching, begins to cry on stage. Not subtle tears, not the kind you can hide, Not the kind you can blink away and pretend didn't happen. Full, visible, shoulder-shaking crying. The kind of crying that comes from somewhere deep. The kind that can't be stopped once it starts. He turns away from the audience for a moment, trying to compose himself. Trying to find that legendary Sinatra control. The control that got him through divorces and career setbacks and public humiliations. It doesn't work. The tears keep coming. When he turns back, his face is wet. Makeup running. Eyes red. The carefully constructed image shattered. The tough guy from Hoboken is completely undone by this widow's devotion. I can't go on, Sinatra says into the microphone. His voice is thick, barely controlled. Cracking on every other word. I'm sorry, but I can't do this right now. There's something more important happening. Something more important than this show. More important than the sold-out arena. More important than the critics in the audience. More important than his reputation. The audience doesn't know how to react. Some people start to leave, thinking the show is over, thinking they'll get refunds, thinking Sinatra is walking off for good, having a breakdown, unable to continue. Others sit frozen, sensing that something extraordinary is about to happen. But Sinatra isn't leaving the stage. He's walking down the stairs at the side of the stage, heading directly into the audience, moving with purpose, with determination, like a man on a mission. Security tries to stop him. Two large men in dark suits step forward. Frank, you can't. His manager starts to say. Protocol. Insurance. Liability. What if someone grabs him? What if there's a scene? What if this turns into chaos? Sinatra waves him off without a word, without even looking at them. He walks down the aisle toward row 5, toward Eleanor Romano, toward this woman whose grief called out to something in him. The spotlight operator follows him, keeping him illuminated as he moves through the crowd. People reach out to touch him as he passes, hands grabbing at his jacket, his sleeve, his shoulder, trying to connect with this legend walking among them, trying to be part of whatever this moment is. He doesn't notice, doesn't acknowledge them. His focus is entirely on the woman with the photograph, the woman whose grief cut through his performance and reached something deep inside him, something he'd been keeping locked away. When Sinatra reaches Eleanor's row, he stops. They stand facing each other. This legend of American music and this grieving widow from Brooklyn. Two strangers connected by loss and love and the mysterious power of music to bridge impossible distances. The entire arena watches. 18,000 witnesses to this intimate moment. Ma'am, Sinatra says softly, but the microphone in his hand picks it up and broadcasts it through the arena. Tell me about your husband. Eleanor's hands are shaking. She holds out the photograph, her fingers trembling so badly she almost drops it. This is Vincent. We were married 41 years ago today. He was a mailman. He worked every day for 37 years. He never missed a day. Not once. Not for illness. Not for bad weather. Not for anything. He said the mail had to get through. Rain or shine or snow or sickness. He believed in duty, in showing up, in doing what you promised you'd do, in being reliable, in being someone people could count on. Sinatra takes the photograph, studies it carefully, really looks at it. In the picture, a young couple stands outside a church. 1930, both smiling, both impossibly young. The whole world ahead of them. All those years they didn't know they'd have. All those mornings and arguments and reconciliations and quiet moments. All of it contained in one frozen smile. One moment captured before they knew what their life would become. He loved your music, Eleanor continues, her voice steadier now. Finding strength in talking about Vincent. Finding comfort in sharing him with this stranger. When things were hard, when money was tight, when life felt heavy, he'd put on your records. He'd take my hand and we'd dance in our kitchen. Just the two of us. No fancy ballroom. No orchestra. No audience. Just your voice and our love and the kitchen floor. Between the refrigerator and the stove. And our socks. With the dishes still in the sink. He said your voice reminded him that beauty still existed. That no matter how hard life got, there was still something worth celebrating. That romance didn't die just because you got old or tired or poor. Sinatra's shoulders shake again. He's trying so hard not to break down completely. Try to maintain some dignity, some control. It's not working. His face crumples. His breath catches. What was his favorite song? Sinatra asks. His voice barely above a whisper, but the microphone catches every word. Eleanor doesn't hesitate. It could happen to you. We danced to it at our wedding, in a church basement in Brooklyn, with 50 people and a borrowed record player. And every anniversary after, 41 times. The same song, the same dance, the same love growing deeper each year. Sinatra nods slowly, closes his eyes, takes a deep breath. Then he does something unprecedented in his entire career. Something nobody in Madison Square Garden will ever forget. Something that will be talked about for decades. He sits down, right there in the aisle, on the floor of Madison Square Garden. This man in an expensive tuxedo worth more than most people's monthly rent just sits on the floor like a child, like someone so overcome with emotion that standing is no longer possible. He gestures for Eleanor to sit in her seat. She does. Sinatra is now sitting at her feet, this icon of American culture, this legend who has performed for presidents and kings, sitting on the floor of his own concert, and he raises the microphone and begins to sing. No orchestra, no arrangement, no stage, no lights, no preparation, just his voice, raw, unpolished, human. Vulnerable in a way Frank Sinatra has never been vulnerable in public before. It could happen to you. He sings it directly to Eleanor Romano, but really, he's singing it for Vincent, for their 41 years together, for kitchen dances and devotion, for mailmen who never miss a day, for ordinary love that's more extraordinary than any spotlight, for love that survives even death. His voice cracks multiple times. He has to stop and start over twice. He forgets a lyric and just hums the melody. His breath hitches. His timing is off. It's the most imperfect performance Frank Sinatra has ever given. And it's the most beautiful. Because it's real. Because it's human. Because for once in his carefully controlled career, Frank Sinatra is not performing. He's just being. By the second verse, other people in the audience are crying. By the bridge, entire sections are sobbing. Tough New Yorkers who came for entertainment are witnessing something sacred, something that transcends performance, something that reminds them of their own loves, their own losses, their own kitchen dances. Women hold their husbands tighter. Men wipe away tears they didn't know they could still cry. Strangers hold hands. The whole arena becomes one organism of shared grief and shared love. When the song ends, Sinatra stays seated on the floor for a long moment. Not moving, just breathing, existing in the aftermath of that emotional release. Eleanor reaches down and touches his shoulder. A gentle touch. A benediction. Thank you, she whispers. Thank you for honoring him. For seeing us. For stopping your show for a mailman from Brooklyn who danced with his wife in the kitchen. Sinatra stands up slowly, his knees cracking. Someone in the audience laughs nervously at the sound and then immediately feels ashamed. He helps Eleanor to her feet with the gentleness of a son helping his mother. Then he does something else that shocks everyone. He takes off his tuxedo jacket, the iconic Sinatra jacket, the one that's been photographed 1,000 times, the one that represents everything slick and sophisticated about his image. He drapes it over Eleanor's shoulders. It swallows her small frame, makes her look even tinier. This is for Vincent, Sinatra says, his voice firm now. Decisive. Tell him I sang for him tonight. Tell him his love story matters. Tell him that a mailman who dances with his wife is more important than any sold-out arena. Tell him I'll never forget him. Eleanor breaks down completely, her whole body shaking with sobs. Sinatra holds her while she cries. This legend, this icon, this man who supposedly has no heart. He just stands there in the aisle holding a grieving widow while 18,000 people watch in absolute silence. Some people are filming with cameras. Others just watch, knowing that some moments are too sacred to try to capture. After what feels like an eternity and also no time at all, Sinatra helps Eleanor back to her seat. He kneels beside her one more time, says something that only she can hear. She nods, smiles through her tears. touches his face. Then Sinatra walks back to the stage, still in just his white dress shirt and bow tie. Vulnerable, exposed, different. The swagger is gone. Something else has taken its place. Something deeper. Ladies and gentlemen, he says when he reaches the microphone, I need a few minutes. Please bear with me. The audience understands. Nobody complains. Nobody leaves. They wait. Some people talk quietly. Others sit in silence. All of them processing what they just witnessed. 20 minutes later, Sinatra returns. His eyes are still red. His voice is rough. But he's ready. He's changed into a fresh shirt, but he's still not wearing a jacket. Ladies and gentlemen, he begins. Thank you for your patience. I've been performing for 30 years. I've sung for presidents, for royalty, in the greatest venues in the world. But tonight I learned something. Tonight a woman named Eleanor taught me what this is really about. It's not about me. It's not about the show. It's about all of you. It's about the Vincents in the audience who work every day and dance with their wives in the kitchen. It's about the Eleanors who show up even when their hearts are broken. It's about honoring the love that makes life worth living. The arena erupts in applause. Not the usual Sinatra applause. Not screaming and cheering. Something deeper. More reverent. Like applause in a church. Sinatra performs for another 90 minutes. Every song feels different now. More weight. More meaning. When he sings My Way near the end, he changes the lyrics slightly. Instead of I did it my way, he sings We did it our way and looks directly at Eleanor. The audience knows. They understand. After the concert, Sinatra spends an hour with Eleanor backstage. His manager tries to rush him. There's a party. Important people waiting. Photographers. Celebrities. Obligations. Sinatra tells him to cancel everything. This is more important, he says. Eleanor tells him about Vincent. About their whole life together. The struggles and joys. The ordinary extraordinariness of a long marriage. When she finally leaves, Sinatra gives her an envelope. Inside is a handwritten note on his personal stationery. Vincent's love made the world better. Thank you for sharing him with me. You honored him tonight. Keep dancing. He's still with you. Every step. Eleanor Romano kept that note for the rest of her life. She framed it, hung it next to their wedding photo. She lived for another 12 years and attended 6 more Sinatra concerts. Each time, Frank acknowledged her from a stage. Each time, he sang It Could Happen to You with that same raw emotion. He never wore a jacket when he sang it. The story spread. Other performers heard about it. It changed how they thought about their audiences, about who they're really singing for, about what really matters. Today, there's a small memorial backstage at Madison Square Garden. Most people walk past it, but if you stop and read it, you'll see 2 names, Vincent and Eleanor Romano, and a quote from Sinatra. Sometimes the most important thing we can do is stop the show. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to remember that vulnerability is strength and love never dies. Subscribe for more true stories about the human heart behind the legend.